What's up YouTube? So in this video I will be exploring the possibility of Jon Snow's mother being Lyanna Stark and Jon Snow's father being Rhaegar Targaryen. If this theory turns out to be true, it would mean that Jon Snow is the literal personification of a song of ice and fire. The ice part coming from Lyanna Stark, part of the north, and the fire coming from Rhaegar Targaryen. I've compiled a lot of evidence to support this theory, and it's reassured me that the theory is in fact correct. So first of all, we have the love between Lyanna and Rhaegar. Now some people might say this love is non-existent. I have found some evidence to say that it actually is. At the beginning of the series in Game of Thrones, we see like a general sort of dislike for Rhaegar Targaryen. However, throughout the rest of the series, when the viewpoint turns away from Robert's prejudice, we see that Rhaegar was in fact an honourable man. For example, he, Ned, wondered if Rhaegar had frequented brothels. Somehow he thought not. Game of Thrones, page 381. Here we have a piece of evidence from Lyanna. Robert will never keep to one bed, Lyanna had told him at Winterfell on the long night long ago when their father had promised her hand to the young lord of Storm's End. I hear he has gotten a child on some young girl in the Vale. Ned had held the babe in his arms. He could scarcely deny her, nor would he like to lie to his sister, but he assured her that what Robert did before their betrothal was of no matter, that he was a good man and true, who would love her with all his heart. Lyanna had only smiled. Love is sweet, dearest Ned, but it cannot change a man's nature. Game of Thrones, page 379. In my opinion, this quote infers the fact that Lyanna is not truly in love with Robert Baratheon. So if that is in fact true, I have also some evidence to suggest that she actually loves Rhaegar Targaryen. If we look at the story that Jojen and Meera told to Bran about the night at Harrenhal, the Dragon Prince sang a song so sad that it made the wolf maid sniffle. But when her pup brother teased her for crying, she poured wine over his head. In my opinion, this quote actually says a lot more than it should. I think it says that Lyanna was in fact in love with Rhaegar, and she was so moved by his performance that she started crying. Now, something to support the fact that Rhaegar loved Lyanna was at the tourney at Harrenhal in the year of the Fall Spring. Rhaegar won the jousting contest, but instead of crowning his own wife, Elia, the Queen of Love and Beauty, he crowned Lyanna instead. Here we have a quote from Daenerys. Yet sometimes Dany would picture the way it had been. Her brother Rhaegar battling the usurper in the bloody waters of the Trident and dying for the woman he loved. Note that the quote doesn't say his wife or Elia, it says the woman he loved. And when Dany sees visions in the House of the Undying, rubies flew like drops of water from the chest of a dying prince, and he sank to his knees in the water and with his last breath murmured a woman's name. Clash of Kings, page 706. So if we look at it, there's obviously Rhaegar dying on the Trident. Yet, with his last breath murmured a woman's name. Not his mother's name, not his wife's name, not his lover's name, a woman's name. Does this in fact infer that the woman's name is Lyanna's name? I think so. And here we have a quote from Ned. I was with her when she died, Ned reminded the king. She wanted to come home, to rest beside Brandon and father. He could still hear at times. Promise me, she had cried, in a room that smelled of blood and roses. Promise me, Ned. The fever had taken her strength and her voice had been faint as a whisper. But when he gave her his word, the fear had gone out of his sister's eyes. Why was Lyanna so scared about where she was going to be buried? In my opinion, she wasn't scared about that. She was scared about Jon, her young son, being killed as a Targaryen because Robert was going around and murdering every single Targaryen he could find. Now, once again, we also have the part where Lyanna is described as being dying in a pool of blood. And in my opinion, I think this signifies childbirth. Unless she'd have been stabbed, then I'm not sure what it could have been other than childbirth. And also, if we have a look at the King's Guard as well, 3 members of the King's Guard was protecting Lyanna. What for? And not just 3 King's Guard, the best 3 King's Guard, who managed to slay 6 of Lord Eddard's companions. They might have been there to protect the unborn child. So following on from that, let's have a look at the evidence from Lord Eddard. So since Lord Eddard is described as an honourable man, one would think that he would feel guilty over the fact that he's lying to the world about Jon's parentage, and the fact that an honourable man would not father a bastard. Well, he certainly feels guilty over something. Throughout the book there are numerous references to the fact that he feels guilty for telling lies. These lies most likely have something to do with Jon or something as equally serious. Troubled sleep was no stranger to him, Ned. He had lived lies for 14 years, yet they still haunted him at night. Well, Snow is 14 at this time. This strongly implies that Eddard's 14 years of lies are about Jon. The fact that they still haunt him at night fits in with Lord Eddard's dream about blue roses and the Tower of Joy. If we look at Arya, after she's driven away Nymeria and Ned's found out, it was right, her father said, and even the lie was not without honour. So could he be in fact comparing Arya's lies to his own lies. And another quote from Lord Eddard: "Some secrets are safer kept hidden. Some secrets are too dangerous to share, even with those you love and trust." Could this be inferring that the secret of Jon's parentage was not shared with anyone, even his wife? Now here's a weird quote that I found. Ned fought, if it came to that, the life of some child I did not know against Robb and Sansa and Arya and Bran and Rickon. Now he's only included his true born children there, but yet he mentions Jon Snow a bit later in the quote. Even more so, what would Catelyn do if it were Jon's life against the children of her body? He did not know, he prayed he never would. And if we look at the evidence that's shown to us when Lord Eddard is in the Red Keep waiting to die, the thought of Jon filled Ned with a sense of shame, a sorrow too deep for words. If he could only see the boy again, sit and talk with him. Does this infer the fact that he's feeling shame over not ever telling Jon of his true parentage? Why, out of all his children, does Eddard want to talk with Jon before he dies? And a couple of pages earlier, Ned asks Varys if he could deliver a letter. Now, the contents of what the letter could have been can be heavily disputed, but it might have been a letter to Jon at the Wall telling him about his true parentage. And Bran has a dream, and as we all know, Bran is the next Green Seer. This could be a prophetic dream. I dreamed about the crow last night, the one with 3 eyes, obviously the Blood Raven. He flew into my bedchamber and told me to come with him, so I did. We went down to the crypts. Father was there and we talked. He was sad. And why was that? Lewin peered through his tube. It was something to do about Jon, I think. The dream had been deeply disturbing, more so than any other of the crow dreams. We've seen a lot of these dreams, and we've seen a lot of kind of visions of the Starks having like a feast after they've died. For example, I think it was Theon who screamed when he saw Robb and his direwolf Greywind join the feast still bleeding. So if it's possible for there to be some sort of afterlife or some sort of way for consciousness to reach out in the Game of Thrones series, is it possible that this is an actual conversation between Lord Eddard and Brandon, and and the fact that Bran can't remember the entire dream? Could it be possibly that Lord Eddard has told Bran, and that's what was deeply disturbing? Some more evidence to this theory is that in the 8th Ned chapter in the Game of Thrones, Ned contemplates the significance of Robert's bastards, and as he thinks about that, his thoughts drift to Jon Snow, a logical path to take, but also to his sister Lyanna and the promise he made, and to Rhaegar Targaryen, implying some link between the 3 individuals. A piece of evidence that I've not seen anywhere, well, at least the second part of this evidence anyway, is that Arya is said to look like Lyanna and Jon is said to look like Arya. So much that Sansa seems to think that Arya was a bastard until her mother corrected her. And if we have a look at 4 out of 5 children of Lady Catelyn, 4 of the 5 are said to have Tully looks, Arya being the exception. And as we all know, is it possible due to the genetics that the female traits are expressed more, such as the auburn hair in the Tullys and the black hair in the Starks, and with Jon having Lyanna's looks? And at another point, Lord Eddard Stark says to Lady Catelyn, "He is my blood, that is all you need to know." Note the fact he doesn't say he is my son. He says he is my blood. So also Lyanna also has Lord Eddard Stark's blood. So anyway guys, thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like and a comment below. I also have a Game of Thrones Twitter now, which has quite a few followers. If you want to follow that, the link will be in the description below. So thanks for watching.